Welcome to the first episode of Better CHUCK SAUL. That's because we got a CHUCK SAUL out of the way. CHUCK Jimmy. CHUCK everybody. Because this is about the hero of the show, Chuck. My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRIM. At FitandTrim on Twitter. This podcast is part of the Double P podcast family. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Double P Podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcast with an S, podcast plural. Facebook.com/Double P Podcast to tell everybody how much you love Chuck. Now, Better CHUCK SAUL is a podcast dedicated to stopping the fake media, not the real media, that's gotten even worse since wonderful Chuck became an attorney. Chuck McGill came to his profession, law, and yet every story about Chuck is badly slanted, and we have to hold these liars to the fire and expose the truth. We're going to expose the great work that Chuck McGill has done as part of his MAGA plan. That's hashtag MAGA, Making Albuquerque Great Again. So if you want to see an exposed Chuck, subscribe to this podcast. On this week's Chuck Exposed, Chuck McGill, a.k.a. Job Creator, specifically one bright American whose job was to witness the vile crimes of evil Jimmy. But Chuck isn't just a job creator. He's also leading the fight against global warming. Regularly, Chuck won't run the lights or air conditioning or any other electric appliance in his house, cutting down his dependence on fossil fuels. But also, each week, we're gonna prosecute the vile criminal Jimmy McGill, a.k.a. Slippin Jimmy, a.k.a. Saul Goodman, a.k.a. Gene, a.k.a. Mr. Cinnabon. And it's important to note, that's spelled S-I-N, Abon. Slippin Jimmy McGill. A lawyer so lacking in law that most viewers would rather watch a senior citizen take apart a car piece by every single piece in real time than keep up with his evil antics. And when we prosecute Jimmy McGill, we're gonna prosecute him for each episode. This week, we're prosecuting him for Better Call Saul, Season 3, Episode 2, Witness. Crime number 1, breaking and entering, destroying a door and glass. Breaking and entering is a crime. There can be no one who supports breaking and entering. If you know someone who supports this evil SOB, these dirty Jimmy supporters like the Bald Move guys or the post-show recap guys or our good friends at Fando Media, they're all terrible. I demand you break into their house to show them what that unlawful lawyer, Slippin Jimmy, is, a.k.a. terrible. Jury member number 1, is breaking and entering a crime? Yes! Crime number 2 against Slippin Jimmy. Destroying an antique desk. Vandalizing a piece of property. Now, that was just terrible. With a fire poker. He vandalized property with a poker. What a jerk. But it's important, everyone, not to forget the victim in this crime. A block of wood. And Chuck. Fine American wood that Slippin Jimmy treated no differently than he would treat the Constitution. Juror number 2, I ask you, is vandalizing property a crime? Yes! Crime number 3 of which Slippin Jimmy is guilted. classlessness. When evil Jimmy comes in, he mocks great American Chuck by pointing out that Chuck's ex-wife Rebecca left him. That's the definition of classless. Jimmy may not know that Chuck's wife left him when she saw a young colleague of his at Hamlin and McGill who was in love with sexy Chuck. But Rebecca left, even though Chuck never took advantage of this smitten young colleague named Kim. Juror number 3, would you call nasty Jimmy McGill classless?
Yes.
Crime number 4 from this week. Incompetence in surveillance. Had this pitiful boob named Jimmy not blown his cover like he was Barney Fife, proud ex-cop Mike American might have busted foreign, horrible, bad hombre Gus Fring's drug empire. That's right, Slippin Jimmy slipped up and let an evildoer continue to thrive and sell drugs in our communities. Let me point out something about this criminal who Slippin Jimmy gave the heads up to, this Gus Fring. When Chile sends its people, they're not sending the best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have a lot of problems, and they're bringing those problems with them. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. And some, I assume, are good fast food managers. Juror number 4. Did Jimmy McGill blow that surveillance?
Yes.
Crime number 5. Jimmy McGill wastes food. Ladies of the jury, people around the world, there are starving human beings out there in the world, hungry. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. I'll tell you one place it's not coming from. Slippin Jimmy McGill. Because he purchases food in this episode at a fine establishment named Los Polos Hermanos. And what does he do with that food? He throws it in the trash. It's like he's throwing starving kids in the gutter, isn't it, juror number 5?
Yes.
The final crime which we will prosecute Slippin Jimmy McGill on in this episode. Why, it's his worst crime of all. We saved the worst for last. Jimmy McGill, a.k.a. Saul Goodman, can't even draw a straight line. His terrible paint job will lower the property value and make it very difficult for the person who owns this building to find a new tenant once they kick Jimmy McGill out of his law, or should I say, lawless office. Your Honor, members of the jury, each week we're going to come to you and ask you to render your verdict on this evil Jimmy McGill who's trying to do bad things to one slick dude, Chuck McGill. Jury members, what do you find evil Slippin Jimmy?
Verdict, count 1. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn, in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant as to count 1, guilty. 5 jurors find premeditated. 7 find both premeditated and felony. Signed, foreperson.
That's right. That's exactly the way it is. Each week we'll prosecute him, and like I mentioned earlier, we will expose Chuck in our segment entitled Chuck Exposed. God bless Chuck McGill, a man who believes in something higher than himself, the ceiling, and electromagnetic waves that are out there. And he believes in law and order. And if you join me on this podcast each week, we'll defend God bless him, Chuck. If you know someone who watches Better Call Saul and supports that slimy, no-good, anti-American Jimmy McGill, I want you to Facebook message them. I want you to tweet at them. I want you to Instagram at them. I want you to get on your Snapchat them. I want you to meerkat them. I want you to periscope them. I want you to FaceTime them. I want you to hit them up in Google Hangouts. I want you to 4chan them. I want you to Foursquare them. I want you to Zillow at them. I want you to Yelp review at them. Go on their message board. Go to their bingo hall. Interrupt their mani-pedis. Stop their rocking chair at Cracker Barrel. And tell them to download and listen to the truth about a great American named Chuck McGill here on the Better CHUCK SAUL mini podcast every single week. God bless Chuck McGill.